So, I'm in Palestine, probably wondering how I got in. So the Israeli authorities, as it turns out, they've revoked my visa. Had a bit of hassle coming in, I'll tell you about that later. In the meantime, I'm here with this incredible Palestinian Christian organisation called Sabeel. And what they're doing is taking an incredible group of people, a delegation, around the West Bank, occupied West Bank, obviously illegally occupied West Bank, occupied by the Israeli state, and Jerusalem. And we're here to learn about the experiences of Palestinians who suffer apartheid, their brothers and sisters, of course, suffering genocide, as far away from here as Milton Keynes is from London. And what we're doing is learning about the historic injustices, obviously the Nakba, which, as we're told, never ended in 1948, the displacement, the mass discrimination, you know, just the utter horror and injustice that Palestinians put up with every day. So, I'm going to start by talking to the wonderful Omar from Sabeel about where we are right now.
This village is called Lifta village. One among many Palestinian villages, over 531 villages that have been depopulated in 1948. The indigenous people, the Palestinian people, our people, were forced by gunpoint or for fear for their lives. They were driven out to either other countries or just less than few miles away from here.
Zionist paramilitaries attacked Lifta, so they killed people.
I mean, the logic of it, the intention was not to kill people. In Zionist ideology, that you need to create a Jewish state. To create a Jewish state in a country that is already filled with population. At that time, almost 1 million Palestinians lived in it. You needed to drive them out. So that was the solution, whether it was using violence, massacres, or actually just by fear. Palestinians were driven out so that they can make space for the new refugees that were coming from Europe, fleeing Nazi Germany or destroyed Europe after World War II.
And what happened to the people of Lifta?
They continue to exist, having ruins, being surrounded by ruins. I mean, these are the dead stones. There's a living community. The people of Lifta continue to have their weddings together. They continue to share their stories.
But where did they live? Where did they go afterwards?
They live everywhere, physically. But in their mind, they still live here. Lifta is not empty. The people are still living here. Nakba means catastrophe. We lost 2/3 of historical Palestine. 2/3 of our people became refugees. We lost our books. We lost our culture. We lost everything. But we haven't lost our stories. We're still here. We still share them. And we still believe in international law and in the conscience of the international community that they will stop being an obstacle for us to go back, to come back to our home.
And you think one day that'll happen?
It has already happened. We're here. The people of Lifta here are showing us a tour. It is not something that will happen. We have never left Lifta.
Across the West Bank, there are hundreds of thousands of illegal Israeli settlers. They've got the backing of the Israeli state. I mean, they are driving Palestinians off their land. We're here in the West Bank. This is happening everywhere. Now, we went to Beit Zizet and spoke to Sada, and his family have lived there for so long, and they're living through terror. I mean, they're caged, they're surrounded by illegal Israeli settlers, really important to say that, illegal Israeli settlers, and they're caged in, they're surrounded by cameras, and they are facing a campaign of terror. And there's no other way of describing it. So I went to speak to Sada about what his little children are going through as Israeli settlers colonize and steal their land.
احنا طبعا our family was here before the Israeli occupation and before any settlement existed. The Israeli pressures we face from the occupation, such as reminders, closures, and preventing the family from entering or leaving the house, make us feel like we are in a prison. Harassment from settlers on the right and on the left, assaults on the family and children, arrests of children. The entire family has faced situations where settlers even stripped completely in front of the young children, causing psychological issues for these young children who are present. They have confiscated all the land around the house, leaving only the area of the house that is currently here.
So how are they trying to drive you off your family's land? What are the things they're doing to drive you away?
There are many things and a lot of pressure, such as closing the gate, which is the first thing that affects the family, as even the sick cannot go to the doctor or the hospital, and the children are prevented from going to school. I can't go to my work. Attacks by settlers, the presence of armed settlers, intimidation of children, preventing children from even playing and having a little freedom around their home to feel comfortable and safe. This has been forbidden for my children, meaning the most basic rights, which are health and education for children, are often denied to us.
How have they behaved towards your children?
These children have been arrested several times. If young children kick a ball against the wall, they are arrested. They are threatened with death, arrest, and being forbidden to leave the house. These young children who do not know what homeland or home mean. This child was arrested once, and the second time I prevented them from arresting him.
What have they said in terms of, the Israeli authorities about making you leave this land? What have they said to you, and will you ever leave your family's land?
The Israelis first tried to tempt me with huge sums of money and travel, and by killing my family. They tried to blow up a car at the door of the house. They tried to set the house on fire while we were sleeping. I mean, there is nothing more dangerous than the pressures the Israelis have put on us here. I mean, even if I die on this land, I have 4 children. Even if my 4 children and I die on this land, we will never leave it, no matter how things turn out. Because in the end, we are the rightful owners and they are intruders on this land. And every occupier has an end and will vanish from this land.
One of the crucial ways Israel is waging war against Palestinian national self-determination is the economy. It's asphyxiating its economy. It has control, of course. It is the occupying force. So we're in Ramallah now, and we're going to chat to Sam Bahor, who's a Palestinian-American business person who focuses on the Palestinian economy under Israeli occupation. I want to know about that, because that's not spoken about enough in the mainstream media at all.
It's important to understand that Gaza is part of our economy. So first and foremost, 40% of our population in Gaza has been extracted from the economy, not only as being laborers, but also being consumers. So that affects the Palestinian economy overall. The economy in Palestine is a function of what Israel allows to happen or not to allow happen. And that's not something that started on October 7th. That has been the case since the Israeli occupation started. So whatever we're able to do here economically, Israel allows us to do it. Partly because they don't want, up until October 7th, I think they didn't want the environment to explode. Also, we support them. We are laborers to the Israeli market. So a lot of what they allow us to do falls back on supporting the Israeli economy, whether it's providing them with cheap labor or providing them with laborers themselves. So Israel knows what it's doing in terms of putting restrictions on the Palestinian market. It forces us to buy from Israel instead of buying from abroad, making it very difficult for us to import. And they make our economy not have enough job creation, so our workers are hoping to find jobs in Israel supporting the Israeli economy. So as far as Israel is concerned, they view us as an extension of their own economy, and they act accordingly. They definitely don't allow us to do anything that has any trappings of an independent Palestinian state, like having our own currency, having our own fiscal policy. They refuse to allow that to happen, let alone having our own borders so we can actually control the country that we live in. So Israel makes sure that our economy is decimated, holding custom revenues so the Palestinian government doesn't have any funds to operate with. All of that is a function of the Israeli military.
And what's the US role? What's the Western and US role in all of this?
The US has allowed this to happen. They know very well what Israel is doing, and they have turned a blind eye or actively supported it for so many years. In addition for Israel raping our economy, they've also benefited from non-stop Israeli financial support, both at the federal level in terms of Congress giving up to $4 billion a year to Israel, basically covering the financial costs of this genocide, and corporate America remaining engaged in Israel when all normal business calculations would indicate they should not remain invested in Israel because Israel is a very dangerous place to do business. So the American side at all different levels has provided the resources for Israel to continue to do what it does, even as it applies to the settlements. Is U.S. nonprofits, tax-deductible organizations, are allowed to channel funds without paying taxes on them to Israeli settlements directly. This is in clear violation of U.S. law, let alone international law. Israel has issued bonds and has convinced local governments and state governments to buy Israeli bonds, which are junk bonds at the end of the day. But yet, you have a class within Israel, within the U.S., which is willing to support Israel ideologically, not grounded in any kind of business or investment mindset.
هاي قصة عن القوة.
أنا اسمي باسل.
مسافر يطا هي المكان اللي كبرت فيه. بداية تصويري هي بداية نهايتنا.
جرافات؟
This is Masafer Yatta. This is in the West Bank. A lot of you will know about where we are now because it was immortalised, I guess, in No Other Land. It won Oscars. And it's about this community which is under violent assault. It's been designated as a so-called firing zone by the Israeli authorities since the 1980s, supposedly barring civilian presence because they need to train their military. They're driving Palestinians out of their homes. Hundreds in the late 90s were forcefully evicted. And in 2022, the Supreme Court of Israel approved eviction orders, driving out up to 2,000 residents, many of them kids. And they've been continually attacking, wiping out homes through demolitions while settlers are engaged in violent attacks. Now, we're so honoured to be here. I'm so honoured to be able to speak to Bassel Adra, obviously one of the people behind the film. He lives here. This is his land. He'd lost to Israeli violence one of the people who was obviously behind that film. One of the things I wanted to ask him was, you know, what does this say about Israeli impunity? This film, massive critical acclaim, has it actually got worse, the violence, rather than it causing such a scandal that it would deter them?
It got much worse, you know. I think mainly because these settlers see that their soldiers, their state is killing every day 100 Palestinians in Gaza. So they see that nothing is happening to them and they can do it every day and continue. So why they don't escalate here? Why they don't do more crimes and why they don't take more land? And I think it's impunity coming from the international community to Israel as a state, because not just to punish the settler that killed Auda or the settlers that attacked Khalt Dabba yesterday, but this is a whole state, a system that committing daily crimes. I think the international community should not hesitate taking actions again, but take serious actions. But to tell me, like, recognize the state of Palestine in the middle of genocide. Like, why you don't stop the genocide as a priority? People don't need like a state now. They need to eat, and they need to stop being killed, and stop to be starved. And then okay, it's good to recognize the state of Palestine, but this you should have done it in the 90s, when you pressured the Palestinians to accept and to sign Oslo agreement, not after Israel killed the two-state solution. Like, it's also what it means, like two-state solution for British. Like, where is the borders of this two-state solution? I think it's just. I think what these governments are doing is just playing on your feelings. People that are like going in the street and protests and doing. It's like the story of when they start to sanction individual settlers. You are like sanctioning how many? Like 10 settlers in UK, but there are 700,000 settlers living here. Your airports are open freely for them. They can travel, they can enjoy a holiday, and they can come back and commit crimes. Yeah, exactly. Your markets are open for their goods. You're sending them weapons, buying from them weapons. Each one of us because even you guys, like coming from UK, from other countries, like, thank you for doing this, but also it's part of your responsibility, because you know your money, your foreign policy, it's your governments are involved in this, and I know that you're doing what you can. So it's important to use the culture, the films, the protests. In the elections, also to have a rule to try to elect and to vote for the right people. So anything together we can do. You from abroad, we are on the field. help each other to try to create this change.
ولا شو تفكر؟ لو أنت مكاني شو تفكر؟
We're in Hebron, a Palestinian city, and it is, frankly, it's like a horror film. I'm just going to be honest, it's like a horror film. It's a Palestinian city which has been divided up. The residents here live in prisons, and there's a few hundred Israeli settlers protected by this force of Israeli soldiers, and it has devastated the lives of thousands of Palestinians. Businesses closed, entire streets shuttered. They can't walk on the streets, and crucially, they're living under military law. Really important point here, Israeli settlers live under civilian law of Israel. The Palestinian people here live under military rules. They are dragged before military courts, where the judges are Israeli army soldiers. These are rushed court trials, done in Hebrew. They're just kangaroo courts. Now, we're going to speak to Issa Amro. Some of you are going to recognise him. He was in Louis Theroux's documentary on the BBC about settlers, and he really showed the apartheid system here. Streets where Israeli settlers could walk and do all their business, and they're barred, they're hemmed in. And I want to know what's happened to him since. I want to know what his life is like here. He's an incredible guy, and I think we're going to learn a lot. So in your home, it's quite extraordinary. We're here in Hebron, we're caged in. What's happening? What's going on?
What's going on that we, the Palestinians in Hebron city, we live under oppression. We are segregated, separated, and unequal. We don't feel safe because of settler violence and terror and army aggression. We don't have enough services, so no maintenance, no ambulances, no enough water, no enough electricity because of the occupation, and we have no social life, no visitors. We are caged in our houses here, and we are caged in our own neighborhoods, and we are caged in our own cities. The checkpoints are closed. No people from outside can come and visit me in my house, and we don't have any possibility to do any social activities. Non-violence activities is not allowed according to the Israeli military law. So you don't have any kind of a way to say no to the occupation or to scream. Speaking to media is a crime now. Documenting the human rights violations is a crime. So to counter that and to make it costly for the occupiers and for the violent terrorist settlers, we try to document the human rights violations. We try to support the Palestinian resilience, and we try to shout and tell the truth to everybody in the world. So they act and make concrete actions to make occupation, apartheid, and illegal settlements costly for the Israeli government.
So we walked past and we saw the Israeli soldiers. How many settlers are they protecting here, and how many Palestinians does that apartheid, which is what this is, affect?
After the Ibrahimi Mosque massacre in 1994, the Israeli military closed the city, and our main street, Shuhada Street, which is equivalent to Oxford Street.
Yeah, Oxford.
Yes, it was Oxford Street. My father used to hold my arm not to lose me because of the customers. Customers were coming from all over West Bank to Hebron to buy handmade stuff, very beautiful ceramic, grapes, land, things. They used to do a lot. A lot of customers used to come. The occupation closed it, closed the mosques, closed the streets, closed the shops, closed the markets because of the Israeli settlers. I'm not allowed to walk in my own neighborhoods where I was raised. I have a lot of childhood memories. I lost them because of the closure. And because of a few hundred fanatic extremist settlers, they are the followers of Meir Kahane and now Itamar Ben-Gvir, who lives in the city here.
National Security
yes,
Minister.
the National Security, the National Terror Minister. He's not doing any security for the Israelis or for the Palestinians. He's causing terror to everybody. We are stuck in our own city by these occupation measures. We have 22 checkpoints in less than 1 kilometer square. More than 1,800 shops closed, Palestinian shops closed because of the closure policy. Around 40 to 50% of the houses here in the area, Palestinian houses, became empty. They changed the names of the streets, our own streets, from Palestinian Arabic names in our lifetime to Hebrew names. So my neighborhood, it's called Bab el Khan. Now it's Aimek Hebron in Hebrew in my lifetime. And it's a Palestinian neighborhood. It's part of Palestine. It's part of the two-state solution. But unfortunately, the Israeli government, they don't want peace. They don't want to give us rights. They don't want to recognize us as equal human beings. They don't want to recognize us as a nation who deserve freedom, justice, and equality as everybody else.
Can I ask what happened to you on the 7th of October?
What happened to me on the 7th of October, it happened later to many, many other Palestinians, but I'm an example of a Palestinian human rights defender who was kidnapped from here by soldiers and settlers to the military base. For 12 hours, I was tortured, sexually assaulted, and beaten all the time, all the time. I was completely, in pain, and I can't describe my feeling. Till now I have trauma because of what happened to me in October 7th, and it was really hard to face death. This is what happened to me. In spite of that, that didn't stop me to speak loud in behalf of my people, to reach people outside Palestine, to make them act, to change their reality here for better for everybody.
I watched, obviously, Louis Theroux's documentary. You had a big impact on people back home. Huge numbers of people watched what happened to you. A lot of people might think in normal circumstances, the Israeli army, the Israeli settlers would be embarrassed and be scared. You're now an international recognised figure. What happened after that documentary?
After that documentary, Daniela Weiss was sanctioned in UK, and this is what we want, Israeli settler leaders to be sanctioned. And after each documentary, or after each time I give an interview, the settlers and the army, they get angry, and I'm under the military law. It means I am without any rights. So after Louis' documentary, they came here, they broke into my house, they damaged my trees, they vandalized the land, the soldiers came and threatened me, they detained me many times at the checkpoint, they threatened me, they made my life harder than it is now, but there is no change without willing to pay the price. So I'm willing to pay the price for my principles and for my beliefs to make a change in the future.
What's your message to people around the world, particularly in the countries that are arming Israel?
My message to all the people in the world: don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution and make Israel accountable for its crime according to the international law. The international law should be implemented on everybody here. It's our main reference. And do concrete actions and be with the victims and don't be with the oppressors.
Okay, you are not allowed.
Why can't he be with us?
Because there are limits for Palestinians, so he can't. If he lives here, he can reach. Here, no. Give me your ID, please.
How come Palestinians can't come down here?
It's not work like that. Which camera? We're not talking to you.
So I mentioned I had a bit of hassle getting in. I'm with this wonderful group. They let the group in, they kept me behind for interrogation, asked me some slightly odd questions about what I was doing, my work, all the rest of it, but they let me in. I was like, hallelujah. 2 days later, they sent me an email which said, thank you, Owen Jones. This was from the Israel Population Immigration Department. Due to a change in circumstances in your case, the ETA, which allows you in, which was granted to you as of the 4th of September 2025, is revoked. So I've had that, I got that on the 4th of September. It's now the 8th of September. I chose to ignore it. I mean, if I'm honest with you, I don't accept their rule or law in occupied territories. So, suck it up.
Well, for more, I'm joined from Ramallah in the West Bank by the Palestinian Initiative leader, Mustafa Barghouti. Do you unreservedly condemn the slaughter of 260 innocent people?
I condemn any killing of any civilian, whether Palestinian or Israeli.
Let me finish. You're denying the Holocaust.
Maybe you're not used to women talking. I don't know.
Dr. Mustafa Barghouti has been one of the most recognisable Palestinian figures during the genocide in terms of Western audiences. He's had to deal with, frankly, just dire, awful, toxic interviewers in the Western mainstream media. He's done so, I have to say, with incredible integrity. He's huge amounts of experience and knowledge, not so with the interviewers, I have to say, who he's up against. Now, we're here to talk to him. He's the head of the Palestine National Initiative, which is a kind of progressive, leftish kind of coalition of particularly younger people and women. First thing I want to talk to him about is the plight of Gaza. Their plan is to force the survivors into a concentration camp, kill anyone who refuses, and then deport them. Does he think that's going to happen?
That is what Netanyahu wants. Netanyahu wants to displace everybody in Gaza to a very small concentration camp, and then force people out of Gaza, displace them, conduct the worst kind of ethnic cleansing. In the process, he's trying to destroy every house, every building, every hospital, every clinic in Gaza, every school. He wants to make Gaza unlivable because his goal is ethnic cleansing and not allowing people back. But we will not let him do that. The Palestinians are determined to stay on their land. Now the steadfastness of the Palestinian people, whether you talk about Gaza or West Bank, is about us succeeding in preventing this disaster. Our victory is if we stay in our homeland, if we defeat the effort to create total displacement of Palestinians, like has happened to 70% of our people in 1948. It's to prevent the new Nakba, which could be the worst for all of us. What we talk about here is that Palestinians are facing a true existential threat. If we are out of our country, we will never be allowed back. And that's why every Palestinian is determined to stay, whatever it takes.
With the West Bank, some have called that a slow motion Gaza. What do you see as Israel's plans for the Palestinian population in the West Bank?
It's using settlers as settlers terrorist groups to attack Palestinian communities, to displace people, and putting the people in the West Bank in the most horrible economic and security conditions to force them to leave. Depriving people from economic income, depriving young people from jobs, hoping that this way they can force people out. But we cannot exclude any other possibility, like the ethnic cleansing that happened to 3 refugee camps in the north. So the goal is the same, displacement of Palestinians and eliminating the Palestinian cause. And the struggle is the same, to stay in our homeland and eventually to reach our freedom.
Palestinian civil society is under relentless assault, but they're still speaking out, they're still fighting. And the person I'm going to speak to now is someone who's been fighting relentlessly in unbelievably adverse circumstances. And the first thing that I asked him was, how important is it for those of us in the West whose governments are arming and facilitating genocide, apartheid and the occupation to organise ourselves?
Well, it's life or death for us as Palestinians. It's not like we Palestinians are waiting for a white savior or for Jesus Christ to come back to save us from this genocide that we are living through. But everyone should understand that what Israel is doing is enabled by Western governments. Their arms transfer, their unwillingness to stop their complicity in the genocide, their empowerment, their political backing, all of this is part and parcel of the genocide we're living in. And when people organize in the West, when people reclaim their political agency, they are not just freeing themselves, they are also freeing us here from this monstrosity that has been happening to us.
Can you tell us just firstly a bit about the sort of technology being used by Israel to repress the Palestinian people in the West Bank, for example, and Gaza, and in the way that the forms of violence Israel's using against the Palestinians? You know, lots of people in the West are looking in horror at what's been done to the Palestinians, but how history tells us this can rebound back on the countries which are facilitating it.
Of course. Look, what Israel has benefited from is having us as Palestinians as a captive population to experiment on, to use new means of and methods of repression. Just look at the Pegasus spyware that Israel has developed. It was developed using us as a captive population with no rights at all, no way to object for our privacy, our mobile phones being hacked through Israeli technology. And it was then sold to repressive governments around the world, and even some of these governments are in democratic nations like the United Kingdom, France, in the US. It was used against the populations. What we see is Palestine is a microcosm of all of the injustices in the world. What's happening here, the methods, for example, the militarized policing, it was actually the United States actually adopted the same tactics. They were trained with the Israeli police and adopted the same tactics against colored communities in their communities. For example, other methods, the facial recognition spyware that Israel has developed is also being used now globally. So if we do not stop what's happening now to the Palestinians, we are also giving away on our freedoms and our future freedoms of the coming generations, because history has taught us that governments like power, and they would use all kinds of power, mechanisms of control in order to keep their control over their populations.
A lot of what Israel's trying to do to the Palestinian people is psychological warfare. It's to break Palestinians as a people, that they'll give up, they'll think it's hopeless. We saw Ben Gvir speaking to Marwan Barghouti in detention, obviously suffered hideous mistreatment, saying, you know, you will never win, we will erase you. And that was part of that psychological warfare. Is that going to work? Will Palestinians give up on their land and be broken in the way that Israel wants the Palestinians to be broken?
We are plagued with hope. We, as Palestinian people, have hope. You can ask us from where it comes. It comes from many places, but we spread hope, and we believe that life cannot be lived without hope. So we always dream of a better future. Maybe Palestinians are born revolutionaries. I don't know, because a revolutionary would always be dreaming of a better tomorrow. We are always dreaming of better tomorrow. I have not met a single Palestinian that does not dream that the next day will be better than the one that has passed.
It's one thing to read about and hear about and watch what's been inflicted on the Palestinian people by Israel and by the West. It's really important to make that point, by our governments. It facilitated this horror show, this historic crime for generations. But to actually be here, it really is something else. To see the homes of Palestinians where they once laughed and lived, played, cooked, you know, and then just driven out of their homes, never able to return. That basic human right, the right of return to your home, having been violently expelled in the Nakba, the catastrophe which enveloped the Palestinian people in 1948. And then to see apartheid up and close, to see how, you can't deny apartheid. Anyone who denies the apartheid that the Palestinians are suffering, it's like denying the sky being blue. You can see Palestinians barred from walking on streets because they're Palestinians. Roads which only Israelis can use. Military law applied to the Palestinians, civil law applied to the Israelis. It's just there up in front. And we heard so much horror. You know, the violence, the everyday humiliations, the constant asphyxiation of Palestinian life. But the one thing I have learned, that's really been drummed into my head, I think, is people here do not see themselves as victims. They're resilient, they're determined, they're stubborn, as many of them will put it. And there is no question whatsoever to any rational, honest person that Israel has made a decision to rid the whole occupied territories of the Palestinian people in Gaza through mass extermination, and here by making life intolerable. The question is, will they be allowed to do that? And that's where the responsibility lies with us. Those in the West who, as I've said, facilitated this horror from the beginning. We have a responsibility to end this abomination by stopping our governments from arming and facilitating it. And Palestinians here have made that clear to us, that we have a responsibility. And it's about how we use that responsibility and whether we're able to say in the future that we did everything we could, that we listened to the Palestinians, that we elevated their voices, that we didn't look away. And I'll never forget what I've experienced here and the people I've spoken to, and we owe it to them never to give up. Please share this video, get the message out, like, subscribe, leave your comments. The more you do that, the more that encourages people to engage and hear the Palestinian voices. That's what I really wanted people to do. But I hope this has had an impact on you, and I hope for many of you it means you'll do something to help end the abomination being inflicted on Palestinian people.